Hi, everyone. I'm Bernice Chao.
And I'm Jessalin Lamb, and we are the co-founders of Asians in Advertising and co-authors of The Visibility Mindset, How Asian American Leaders Create Opportunities and Push Past Barriers. I'm a Chinese American currently living in New York with my husband and daughter. We are grateful to be here with all of you watching this as we honor all the lives lost to Asian hate and to be part of this Justice for Asian Women movement to not only break the silence, but also provide hope and actionable ways to support Asian women.
I'm Taiwanese American, and I live in Los Angeles, California, with my husband and two young children. As an East Asian woman living in America, we both remember the shock and sadness of the moment of the Atlanta spa shootings. In the wake of such a tragedy, we wanted to take action and contribute to uplifting the AAPI community.
We both know how it feels to be marginalized and invisible, as if we don't belong despite being born here as Asian Americans. With my background in diversity, equity, and inclusion and learning and development, combined with Bernice's experience in branding and marketing, we wanted to share the tools Asian American leaders and allies can utilize to succeed. The two of us spent our careers in advertising and media, and we both were faced with the same upward momentum challenges. Through many years of struggling to be seen, we realized that we needed to apply what we knew from our work to ourselves in order to succeed. We realized that the same things that gain brands, presence, and recognition could also work for us. We found that rather than being passed over for opportunities, by implementing a brand strategy for ourselves, a new world of potential could open up, and we wanted to share this realization with others.
We created a nonprofit organization called Asians in Advertising to help elevate Asian Americans for career advancement. We do this by hosting community networking, spotlighting Asian American talent, and creating practical lessons based on what we learned from our experiences and from industry leaders. As a result, we saw many in our community were using these pointers to get new jobs and advance their careers. Asian Americans began reaching out to us from many different industries and from all areas of the world. Our hope is that if we can take AAPI from the invisible minority to the visible minority, we can break stereotypes, biases, and hatred, and give us tools to empower AAPI and allies to help us overcome societal barriers in the workplace.
Today, we're going to talk to you about some of the stereotypes that Asians face and how you can embrace a visibility mindset for Asian American leaders to create opportunities and push past barriers. The first barrier is that Asian Americans are a single monolith group, which is not true. Asian Americans have a population of nearly 23 million, with a diverse group originating from more than 20 countries in East and Southeast Asia, along with the Indian subcontinent. According to the US consensus, the Asian American population is the fastest growing racial group in the US, spread across East Asians, South Asian, and Pacific Islanders.
The next barrier is that people think Asian Americans are high earning and well educated. This relates to that cultural expression, the model minority. Associating that Asians are smart, which is naturally good at math, science, and technology, we're wealthy, hardworking, and achieving of the American dream, as well as docile, submissive, obedient, uncomplaining, and not needing of assistance. This term was first coined by 1960s sociologist William Peterson, who was a white male, for a New York Magazine article to describe success stories. And I say these in quotes because these talks about the Japanese American families that were forced into internment camps and then were able to rebuild and reintegrate into society. However, this portrayal of Asians as the model minority was at the burgeoning of the civil rights movements in the 50s and 60s to discredit the claims of African Americans who saw racial and economic justice and demanded structural overhauls in American society. The model minority was used to pit the Black and Asian communities against one another throughout American history. This myth paints Asians as a monolith, while there are 23 million Asian Americans tracing origins to 20 countries. The reductions of numerous ethnicities, origins, and cultures leave marginalized Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, or Asian Americans out of the equation. Though Asians have some of the highest educational attainment, the lowest run of the poverty level ladder is Asians, which is widely ignored. Most are surprised when I say Asians make up the highest ethnic poverty rate in New York by 29.8%. But the Asian American Community organizations only receive 1.4% of the total value of the city's social service contracts and 1.5% of total contract dollars from the Department of Social Services.
And now moving on to the third barrier that we wanted to share is that people think Asian Americans are fairly represented in leadership positions. This is the bamboo ceiling that our community faces, which is an invisible barrier preventing AAPI from attaining leadership roles. Even a Harvard Business Review article shared that Asians are least likely to be managers and promoted compared to other ethnic groups. And when it comes to Asians in the workplace, most Asians are hired at the bottom and not promoted to leadership roles, facing the challenges of upward mobility. Only 2% of Fortune 500 executives are Asians, and this needs to change. This is why we'll now talk to you about how Asians can embrace the visibility mindset to be seen, heard, and actively build opportunities for yourself.
Now that we heard about some barriers, let's talk about ways that AAPI can be visible. The first skill is to learn is finding your voice. Having a voice is incredibly important to be seen because the worst thing that you can do is attend a meeting, whether in person or in Zoom. You end the call or leave a meeting and realize you didn't even open your mouth once during that call. I remember being in a large conference room where we brainstormed the next Super Bowl commercial. There were many high level people in the room, and I left the room without saying anything. I felt too junior and was too afraid that if I had said something stupid, I risk embarrassing myself. But what actually happened was way worse. I just spent a whole meeting without saying a word, and it looked like I didn't have a reason to be in the room in the first place. On the other hand, my peers in the room were shouting out random ideas that came into their heads. Some ideas were good, but most were terrible. But they were actively engaging. The meeting was a moment where I could have shown my prowess for thinking in front of high level executives, but my fear of failure prevented me doing so. Because I didn't show any purpose of being in the room, I was not invited to that next meeting. The lesson I'm trying to share with you today is to speak up because you don't want to come off as waste of space. You also don't have to have the perfect answer to contribute. Your idea may not be formally formed, but it could be the source of your team's next breakthrough. And what you bring could spark something for the rest of the group. Take advantage of every opportunity with an audience to be visible and heard. So, a way to prepare for this is take 15 minutes before your next group meeting to prep, check into who's attending the meeting, and read through all the materials. Have some possible questions and comments at the ready. If you're engaging in a virtual meeting, you can have these prepared on a post it note stuck around your screen just to remind you to engage. Make it a point to speak up in every meeting that you're in with an original idea or opinion so that everyone in the room realizes why you're invited to the space in the first place. If this is uncomfortable for you, slowly build up the confidence to speak little by little. Or if this is still uncomfortable, you can send your ideas through a follow-up email. You can also show that you're engaged with nonverbal clues, such as nodding, giving a thumbs up, or adding the comments into the chat.
And another skill is knowing your worth. So, self worth is an internal measure of how you value yourself and how you trust your own judgment in making decisions. And the concept of self worth, it wasn't introduced to me until my adulthood. And now that I know the importance and benefit to focus on self worth, it's really had a really big impact throughout my life. And typically in the Asian culture, we're not taught to ask for more, and we embrace this freedom of silence. And for Asians, we must unlearn some of these cultural beliefs and learn to embrace our self worth. Asians are often known to value hard work and career success, to focus too much on achievements. And this leads to negative self worth examples like your performance review, your job title, and financial status. And you'll end up aiming for perfection and may unconsciously tell yourself that you are not good enough. And this is where we need to reframe the mindset and overcome imposter syndrome by acknowledging the value you bring to the world. So, to know your self worth, let's talk about the healthy examples that you can get started with. The first one is take that time to reflect on your unique value. This can be assessing your own skills and knowledge. Take a moment to self-reflect on how you speak to yourself, and then amplify what you bring to the table. So now that you're aware of your unique value, consider how are you solving challenges, creating business outcomes for the company you work for, to think about how you add value. For example, are you bringing in new clients? Are you saving the company money? Think about the ROI for what you bring. And then remember to advocate for yourself. When it comes to self-worth, be your own best friend. And what by that, it's advocating and be a cheerleader for yourself. Talk to yourself like you would to your best friend to celebrate accomplishments, all that you've done to be in the life that you are today.
Skill 3 is building your own personal brand. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos said, "Your brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room." Asian Americans are generally taught to downplay achievements and be humble about them. However, talking about your achievements in the Western workplace is vital in your professional life and can help you build credibility. In other words, if two people of equal talent communicate their achievements better during an interview, you can guess who will seem more qualified than the other. Asian Americans must actively practice owning their story by communicating their accomplishments based on actual facts and results. As an Asian American, crafting your personal brand story will be an essential tool to create visibility for yourself and the skills you possess. When it comes to creating your personal value proposition, here are the 2 steps. Understanding your strengths. What have you done in the past that was exceptional? Knowledge of what you do better than most will help lay out your unique value proposition. Number 2, talk about these strengths. Now that you've detected your strengths, you can build your supporting arguments. You are adding what makes you an expert in this space and the association experience. Make sure your answer is specific. If you have stories on how these aspects came to life, it will help you set your answer apart. Now, put it out there. Create a website, curate your LinkedIn, and make your social channels relevant. A study by Career Builder shows that 70% of employers use social media to screen candidates during the hiring process, and 43% use social media to check on current employees. 50% of employers said that what they saw on social media caused them not to hire a candidate. Another study that shows 88% of employers are looking for a cultural fit over skills in their next hire. So if you're in the market for a new job, your online presence can be the difference in whether or not you get hired. And even if you're not the average employee who only stays at a job for 4 years, you'll most likely be looking soon, and you should get ready before you do.
And we also wanted to share tips for our allies to be educated on how to become an effective ally to support the AAPI community. An ally will be an open-minded person to actively listen, be aware of implicit bias, do the research to learn about the history and struggle of the marginalized group, use their privilege to amplify suppressed voices, and do the work to become a better ally. It's crucial to be more intentional and understand actionable ways to be an effective ally. So you can take their approach to be more proactive than reactive by building a strong foundation of competencies, knowledge, and awareness with a focus on other people and not yourself. So here are some ways to be a more effective and action-focused ally. The first one is speaking out and checking in. As a leader, acknowledge what is happening, check in with the community. Silence is complicit, and what is unsaid speaks volumes. You do not want to ignore what is happening in reality. Make sure you take the time to check in with the people to ensure they feel safe, seen, and heard. And educate yourself. Be proactive by learning what else you can do, whether that's reading up on the history, taking an allyship and bystander training, or following leaders you can learn from. Effective allyship requires continuous learning about the communities you want to be an ally for. We recommend that you use all the free resources available to you before asking the marginalized community to teach you. And then you can also amplify the voices to be shared. Leaders can step up and create a safe space for employees as an ally by asking them for their perspectives. Be empathetic. Ask them if they feel comfortable sharing their experience and listen to what they're sharing instead of waiting to respond with your own story. For those employees who are open to the idea of sharing their perspective more widely, amplify their voices to be heard and seen. The last example is calling out the inappropriate behavior. When you are an ally, you proactively show that you not only see and hear what is happening, but you also take the appropriate action to stand up for others. So if you hear someone being disrespectful among your peers in the workplace, do the right thing and call out the inappropriate behavior and prioritize that psychological safety. You want to make sure the problem is addressed by saying it directly that the disrespect is unacceptable, then tell your HR department and check in with the person so that you're making sure that they are okay from the receiving end.
We hope you enjoyed our sessions and found helpful tools to bring back to your life and career. If you're interested in picking up a copy of our book, The Visibility Mindset, we're sold at AAPI bookstores like You and Me and Bel Canto, as well as major retailers like Amazon, where you can also find it as an ebook and audiobook. We're also happy to bring this conversation to your workplace or book club.
Thank you so much for listening today. As two Asian female co-founders, we know how important it is to keep moving forward to not only represent, but to continue to help our community be more visible along with our allies. We would love to stay in touch with all of you and feel free to invite us to connect on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.